Good morning, everybody. My name is Bobby. My friends that's been knowing me a long time call me BJ, but I didn't get on this video call to discuss my nickname or my name. I got on this video call because because the simple fact is I have things I never said that I need to say now. I am up in age now, and I have 9 children, and I've raised all of them. I've been through the ups and the downs. I've been through the abuse and the pain. I've had days where I couldn't get up out of my bed. I've had other days when I did get out the bed, I pushed myself to go to work, to raise my kids, to be in a relationship. You know what happened? Nothing. I didn't value who I was as a woman because I had a lot of kids. So I found myself some days waking up when I was younger in bed with men that I didn't even know. I devalued who I was as a woman because I wanted my kids to have a man in the house that would give them the balance that they needed in order to be well-rounded individuals. But what I found out is that brokenness attaches itself to brokenness. So I was broken, so I attached myself to broken men. I started to put on makeup, do my hair, my nails, and all that, and get on here and really talk so that everybody can pay attention to me. But the way I look right now has nothing to do with what I need to say. There are a lot of young women that will be graduating from high school and college this year. Some will not, and some are still in school. There are women out there that are struggling. They're in a dark place in their life and they don't know how to get out. There are some that are in abusive relationships and they feel like that's love because they either saw it at home or because they got addicted to pain. There are some women out there that get high every day just to know the pain that's deep within them so that they'll be high and it won't bother them. There are some out there that pop pills every day, antidepressants, just to make them feel better, as the doctors say, and take the edge off. There are some out there that are so cold and so broken, they don't want nobody in their life. They got good jobs, they're in good financial status, everybody likes them, they're on top of the world. But on the inside, they're just as scared as a mouse that when you cut the light on, they run. We have allowed this world to dim the light that God put inside of us. We have allowed our children to become just as broken as we are. And why? Because when we go through stuff, we drag our kids in that mess and we don't realize it. When I was a child, there were things that my mother did not do in front of me. My grandparents didn't do in front of me, my aunts and uncles, any adult. If they walked in my mother's house and me and my brothers were sitting there, they made us leave the room while the adults had the conversation. If it was warm, we went outside. If it was cold, we went to the room in the back in the kitchen, which in my house was my brother's room. We went back there. And we talked to each other. We played with each other. We watched TV because they let us, she bought a small TV for the kitchen and she let us take it in the room. And we became addicted to being alone. We got used to it. We got used to just being in the room with no adults around. And what it did was it destroyed us. We were so imbalanced as adults. I got married and it didn't work out. My baby brother got married and he seems to be happy. I pray that he is. My middle brother never married. If he is, I wouldn't know because we don't talk. When my mom died, everything fell apart. I fell apart. I was the oldest and I completely fell apart. My brothers completely fell apart. My kids even fell apart. And what did I do to get us back on track? I did nothing. I was so used to being broken and being hurt. I did nothing. I'm going to tell you why I didn't do nothing. Because it was normal. It was normal for me to be broken. And to be whole and be healthy felt weird. I accepted any and everybody, not just in my presence, but in my life, in my bed, around my kids, things that my mother would have never have allowed. I allowed it. I'll tell you why I allowed it. Because one thing happened in my life that broke me, and I never got unbroken. But I did learn through my lifetime that God is definitely a keeper. That once you get in a position where you decide to give your life over to God, He takes you through a wilderness moment. Some people, it takes a few days and they snap out of it. They trust God and they're doing good. Some people, it takes a few years. They snap out of it. They trust God. They're doing good. With me, it took decades. I was under the impression that as long as I was nice to people and kind to people and helped everybody that needed to be helped, that people would return the same thing. It didn't work like that because I wasn't nice and kind to myself. I abandoned me when I was little. I started lying and doing things to keep friends. But the stories and horror that I went through of how I got broken, they were real. And I was just like the little boy who cried wolf when I really, really needed somebody. As I heard Pastor Jake say one time, nobody stood with me. I was by myself. And at the time, I couldn't even call my friend because my friend was going through stuff. Broken people attract broken people. But about 10 years ago, I met a lady called Andre Carter, and she introduced me to a world that I had never seen before. I didn't know that people could love like that. I didn't know that in spite of your mistakes, people would still keep loving you. I know it said it in the word that people have to forgive you, will forgive you. But I had never met people like that did that. Because I had lived my whole life as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult, that when you made a mistake, my family made you pay for it over and over and over again. Because every time you made them mad, they reminded you of the mistake that you made, whether it was 3 days ago, 3 years ago, or 3 decades ago. And I wasn't taught the art of letting stuff go and moving on. And my mother could not teach me what she did not know, because she had a hard time moving on. My mom was broken. She was. She found somebody in her life that she loved and they didn't want her. And after that, she took it out on the whole world. She got pregnant with me at 16, and she was angry with me because she felt like I messed up her life. Even though me coming here was not my fault, but because of her brokenness, she blamed me. Now, don't get me wrong. You might look at this video and say, your mother was bogus for that. No, my mother was unlearned. My mother wasn't loved at all as far as she was concerned. She was yelled at. She was punished. She had a lot going on in her life from the things that I witnessed and the things that she told me. But Mama's gone now. Mama's been gone 12 years. It'll be 13 this year. And what we do is we hold on to stuff. When people are dead and gone, you need to let them stay buried and let them rest in peace. You can't keep bringing up stuff that you went through with them that's hurtful. Because what I found out that what I was doing was breaking myself over and over and over and over again because I was rehashing the past. It wasn't until I met Miss Carter and her family that even with the flaws in their own material and their own issues that they might have been going inside their family, what I learned from them is that God is a keeper. That if you pray to him and you trust him, and you have faith, he really will be there for you. They took me to church when I was a child. They popped me when I didn't listen. They used to point their finger and say, you need to pay attention to the pastor because what he's saying right now, that's going to help you later. I was a child. I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to go home and go outside and play with my friends. If it was wintertime, I wanted to go home and go outside and throw snowballs. Anything but sitting up in church every Sunday listening to somebody that made no sense to me. Then I became an adult and I was able to go to church anytime I wanted to. And I didn't go. I didn't. Ran the streets with my friends, went to bars, met men. Some stayed at the bar where they was at. Some I tried to develop a relationship with that didn't work out. A lot of times, some of them were married. Some of them already had girlfriends. And I've always had a fear of being jumped on. And I didn't want nobody hitting me for a man that didn't belong to me. But my mind never said, stop doing that. Just he ain't yours to begin with. It never said that to me, not in my head. As far as I was concerned, I had somebody to hold me, to tell me that I was beautiful. And people may look at this video and start laughing. She ain't a beautiful woman. They say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I didn't even behold my own beauty. I never thought I was beautiful. I thought because of my dark skin and my short hair that nobody would ever want me. And because I thought that's for so long, I was right. Nobody did. Any and everything approached me. I had the bums. I had the whoremongers. I had the wife cheaters. I had the abusers. I thank God that I was able to get away from the abusers before anybody put their hands on me. But the mental abuse was something I couldn't block with my arm or with my fist. It soaked in me like a sponge. And the words they said to me, I believed. So when my friends would call me and want to go somewhere with me or want to do something with me, they used to tell them I can't leave the house right now. I'm not feeling well. You know what happened when I kept saying that? I talked sickness into my body. My heart started to swell up because my blood pressure wouldn't stay down. And my blood pressure wouldn't stay down because of the stuff that I allowed into my mental. And you know what happened? I almost died. And when I went to the doctor and the doctor tried to tell me that, you would think that my young mind at that time would have told me it's time for you to get your life together. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't do it. I sat in that house and I felt sorry for myself. I go to bed at night, get up in the morning, get ready for work, and I would just go. This was in the summertime when the kids didn't have no school. Did I worry about whether or not they had breakfast? That wasn't a concern of mine. Lunch, dinner, none of that. I stayed at work. I used to work in the morning from 6 to 10. I would leave and come home and then go back and work from 6 to 10 and close the job where I worked. And I did it the majority of my young life. And then one day I was walking down the street in front of my house and I passed out. And my youngest child's father rushed me to the hospital. And at that time, St. Michael's was the hospital that was close to me. So that's where they took me. And they said I had a heart attack. They also said I had an incarcerated hernia and I needed to have surgery. So I went. They transported me to St. Luke's, and when I woke up, I was in the waiting room for surgery. And you know what? The crazy thing about it is, I didn't even know where I was. And then I closed my eyes again, and I woke up, and I was in a hospital room with a patch above my thigh, this big, and a blood pressure cuff on my arm, breathing stuff in my nose, uh, uh, wires on my head, because they said that my brain wasn't functioning properly. They said that my blood pressure was in the 200s. They told me that my sugar was even high, my diabetes. And I was like, I don't have diabetes. They said, you do now. You know how old I was? I was 37. 37. I said, I'm 37 years old and I'm in the hospital because I had a heart attack and an incarcerated hernia. Where the hernia, instead of it comes out of your navel and be long, it was on the inside and it wrapped itself around my intestines. And if I had been 2 minutes late to the hospital, it would have popped, and that all them feces would have went through my body and I would have died. Now, let me tell you the real thing that's crazy. I got out the hospital after 4 days and I went home. My mother was still alive at that time. And she called me and she said, where are you? I said, no, she called me and one of the kids answered the phone. And she said, where your mama at? And they said, she just got home from the hospital. Now the kids had just got home from school. I got on the phone with my mother. I said, hello. And she said, Bobby, this is mama. How you doing? And I said, I'm doing fine. So you sure? I said, yes, ma'am. And then she went into her rage, like she always do with me when I mess up. What the hell is wrong with you? Why you didn't take your ass to the hospital before any of this happened? I'm sitting on the phone. I'm all in my feelings. I'm like, I just got out the hospital. And then you want to cuss at me. I didn't say this to her, but this is what this was saying. And I'm on the phone like, why am I even talking to her? I started to hang up the phone. But because of the respect and the fact that they beat it into me about don't dishonor your parents, I did not hang up. I listened to everything she said, and every other word was a cuss word. When she finally wore herself out, she hung up the phone. I didn't have to hang up. She hung up on me. And I was doing good. I got up out the bed after about 3 days. I couldn't change the dressing. The hospital had to do that, the doctor. But you know what I did with my stupid self? I never went back to the doctor. I just let that Band-Aid get old and old and old till one day it just fell off. And then about 12 years later, I had another heart attack. This one was a mild one. My blood pressure was 198 over 152. My kids rushed me to the hospital. I couldn't breathe. I could barely walk. My ankles were so swollen that even if I tried to put my feet on the ground, I'd have screamed because of the pain. And again, I'm laying there inside the ambulance and I'm saying, Lord, please don't let me die. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I messed up my life. I'm so sorry that I didn't get it together when you tried to warn me 12 years ago. You would have thought that after all that I went through, I would have learned. I would have did what I was supposed to do. But I didn't. The reason why I call this video is Things I Never Said is because there's so much we're not saying. We're broken women and we're not going to God to help us with our brokenness. And we're raising children and we're breaking them. And then they're going to create a generation of kids that are going to be broken. What is wrong with us? Who taught us to hate ourselves? Life didn't do that. The men in our lives didn't do that. Our parents didn't do that. We somewhere along the line believed something somebody said, and we ran with it. And then you know what's so crazy? When we got tired of running, the people that's told all that mess to us, they are nowhere around. God moved all them people out of my life. He moved all of them. Everybody that ever said a bad word to me, everybody that cussed me out, everybody that tried to fight me, everybody that tried to challenge me because they thought I was after their man, they are gone. Some of them are gone, and in other states, some of them are in the ground. When God says he will remove all of that mess, when you are ready to let him enter in, he will definitely move it. But you got to trust him. And the hardest thing in my life for me to do was trust God. Because I thought, I got all these kids and they ain't got the same daddy. Some of them do, some don't. I said, why would God forgive me? Why would he forgive me? I cheated in my marriage and a baby got produced out of that, and it was my baby. I did all that stupid stuff. But why would God forgive me? Because he loved me unconditionally. And he knew my heart, and he knew I was tired. And that's why he sent Miss Carter. See, I went to her school because I was looking for a school for my baby and my baby grandson, because I wanted them to be close by the house because I don't drive. And I wanted to be able to come to the school and be with them or get them when I needed to. And the crazy thing is that the day I came, the secretary wasn't there. Miss Carter was there. And she came out of her office and she said, may I help you? I said, yes, ma'am. I want to put my baby and my grandson in your school. Well, my baby at first, my grandson wasn't old enough at the time, in your school. I said, I just moved in the area and I want my daughter to be close. I want to be able to come back and forth to get her or to be with her if she needs me to be. She said, that's fine. That's fine. She said, let me get you the paperwork. I need you to bring me your income information, she said, I need a light bill, which will prove my proof of residence, and my daughter's birth certificate and her shot records. So I went and got that. It took me a couple of days because I had to go get it. I didn't have it at home. And I took it back to her and she signed my baby up. Best decision I ever made. Now, my baby is just like any other child. They get inside of school, they see a certain type of environment, and they think to themselves, why did my mama put me here? When I found out that she had that school grounded and based on God, I wanted her to stay there because I knew that other schools wouldn't pray for her. And because of how I grew up in the 60s, to be in an all-Black school where the person that owned it was Black was amazing to me. And I wanted my daughter to be a part of that. And as the school grew, she would grow. By the time she got into 12th grade, she didn't want to be there anymore. And she was becoming an adult, and I didn't want to mess her up like I got messed up. So I said, if you don't want to stay, you don't have to. Then by that time I had moved. And I put her in Hope High School, and she excelled there. She did really well. And then I looked around right before, 4 years before she left. My grandson was 4 years old. It was time for him to go to school. So I put him in there, and he sat there. I got him there early, and he was sitting there at the table by himself. And the cook at that time was Mr. Kenny, and Mr. Kenny fed Jeremiah. And he took good care of my baby. But I guess I'm going so long because I know I'm doing a lot of detail. And I probably will have to do this video in part 1, part 2, and all the rest of that. But because my heart is so full right now, I don't want to overwhelm anybody. But I do want to say this as a message to all single mothers, single women, even married women. Don't devalue who you are just to keep from being by yourself. Don't get addicted to loneliness like I did. Don't get addicted to that. God has somebody for everybody. But he is not going to give you one of his men when you are a mess to mess them up. He's not going to do that. You see how I'm dressed? I'm dressed like this because I'm going to go clean a house today. And because I don't care about what y'all think about how I look, I'm not concerned about that. I got something I need to say, and I need y'all to listen. The last time I had a heart attack, I fell flat on the ground. Look what happened. See that? I lost my teeth. Lost them. Did I go to the dentist? Nope. I didn't go to the dentist. Lost my hair. Did I go to the dermatologist? No, I didn't do that either. When I tell you, when a woman goes through so much pain that she crawls in a dark space and stays there, I was her. I was in that dark place. I'm listening to my kids. I'm listening to my husband. I'm listening to the pastor. I'm listening to my mom and my dad. And all the while I'm in the dark place. I was like a squirrel inside of a tree. I heard all that noise outside that tree, and I didn't want to come out. I was so sick and tired of my life. I said, I'm just going to stay here because I don't want nobody talking to me. I don't want nobody looking at me. I don't want nobody giving me their opinion. I don't want nobody telling me what I needed to do. I just stayed in that dark place, and I was steadfast with it. And no matter what anybody came and said to me, I wasn't leaving my dark place. I was staying there. And how dare you? How dare you tell me that I need to get myself together and get up and get out and get to moving with the world? And I thought to myself, with my selfish self, who are you? You doing good. You dress nice. You got a good job. Your man loves you. Your kids honor you. How you going to come and tell me that I need to get out of my dark place? Get out of my house. That's exactly what I did. Get out of my house. And she left. She called me on the phone and she said that I had a message to give you from God. But God told me it wasn't time because you weren't ready to receive it. And she didn't come back into my life until a few years later. I'm going to tell y'all something. This brokenness ain't cool. It ain't cool. Because when you are broken everywhere. In your house, in your church, in your family, in your job, in the streets. And men that are broken will walk past you on the street and come back and say, hey, you got a man? And you know why? Because they're broken too. Because when you break a glass, sometimes I've broken glasses where I've broken only one piece. And I put that one piece back there. And you know what? It fits in there real good. But the glass is still broken. And that's what happens when you pick up somebody that's broken just like you. My daughter did something one time that I never will forget. She was coming out of the house and this man said, hey, baby, can I talk to you? And she was getting in her car. You know what she told him? She said, the first mistake you made was calling me, hey, baby. The second mistake you made was trying to talk to me while you was walking and I'm getting in my car. He said, my car is in the shop. That's why I'm walking. She said, well, call me when your car get out the shop. And she got in the car and she shut the door and drove off. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, I'm going to call you. Did you know he never realized that he never had her phone number? Broken. A woman that sits up and let a man hit her, she's broken. But you know how she got broken? He didn't start off hitting her right away. He started talking to her first. The stuff that she absorbed in her brain made her think that I'm too weak to fight back. So she didn't. Every time he hit her, she took it. Every time he threw her, she took it. And then they say stuff like, you better not tell nobody and you better not go nowhere. And you know what? She listened. She listened to him. That's how we get broken. Not just by men. Some of us have been broken by women in our lives. Our families have broken us. And we have lived in such toxic families too. When we get out there in the world, guess what happens? The world knows that we've been broken. So they reach and hold of us and make us seem like they're going to be our friends, our lovers, our husbands, boyfriends, whatever. And they finish breaking what our family couldn't break. And instead of us being smart enough to say, no, you're just like what I came out of and walk away, we get used to that. Familiarity really do breed contempt. And we stay in that broken state. I had 9 children. I got 6 girls and 3 boys. And just like slaves, I was a slave. to the world that created me. I was more devoted to this world than I was to God. And when my life fell apart, God helped me get it back together. There was no friends there. There was no mom and dad. There were no kids. There were no aunties and uncles. There was nobody there. God did that. Ms. Carter took me to women's conferences to talk about mental. She took me to financial conferences to talk about how to handle my finances. We ain't gonna even get started on how my bills got blew up because I didn't pay them and I didn't pay them right. The knowledge that she shared with me, that God gave her, she shared it with me and tons of other women. I still came back home and did the same stupid stuff. Now this video is live. There may be people that may say something. There may be people that may not say anything until they watch it. I don't care. This testimony is about me. And I hope that this testimony can help somebody. Pay your bills on time. Your kids can wait. They don't need a $125 pair of shoes when they're getting D's in school. They don't need to get a prom dress for the prom when they can't even bring their butt home. They don't need the game systems when they can't go to bed at night. We are spoiling them. And when they get grown and get out there in the world is not going to spoil them. The best thing that you can give them is God and the best part of you. Give them what you didn't get when you were growing up. Give them your love. Give them your patience. Give them your time. Show them what this world is really like. And then teach them about God. And have them rooted and grounded in God. Whether you listen on at church, on the radio, or on TV, or on the videos. Whatever. God is a keeper. He will help you get through any situation, but you got to trust him. He's not going to force himself on you. He ain't going to come down here and pick you up and shake you and say, what are you doing? If you don't want to be bothered with him, he is not going to come bother you. But when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll stop. You'll stop doing what you're doing. I did. I started paying my bills on time. I'm still paying our bills that were humongous when them kids was babies. And that's ridiculous. I'm still struggling how to take care of myself. And my kids are all grown now. And that's ridiculous. This is not my kids' fault because I had so many. It's not my ex-husband's fault that my marriage did not work out. I shouldn't have got married in the first place. I knew I wasn't ready. I'm taking accountability for my stuff. I'm not going to blame my ex-husband, my kids, my mom, my dad. Life is a choice. The way I lived and what I went through, I chose that. I could have at any time as a grown woman say, you know what, that's enough. I done had it. I'm not doing this no more. But I didn't because I wanted to be broken because I was used to it. I was used to being broken. And when I got free of it, and I said, this is how you live. Whoa, this is what it feels like to be free. There's a responsibility that comes along with being free. I didn't know that either. When you become free, you still can't go out there and do what you want to do. Because that world out there, just because you got it, the world out there, everybody out there didn't get it. And the devil uses everybody to attack you when you got a calling on your life. He will use your family, your friends, strangers, anybody he thinks that you will listen to and that will soak into your brain. He's going to send them. And we sit there and we go, Lord, why me? And you know, my family used to tell me, my elder generation family, why not you? You want God to get that pain to somebody else? Why not you? You wasn't listening. You wasn't listening in church when it said that you can take everything to the Lord in prayer and leave it there. You wasn't listening. You wasn't listening when the little kids was in church singing, let my little light shine. You wasn't listening. You wanted to do things your way because now you're grown and you think you can run around and do whatever you want to do. It's a responsibility that comes along with being free. You can't just be free just to be free. You still got to be responsible. You got to take care of yourself. You still got to take care of your kids. Even if they're grown, they still need you. They need mental support now. Maybe they got good jobs and they got good lives, but it doesn't mean that they don't need their mama or their daddy. That's not how being an adult works. My parents are gone, and you think I don't miss my parents? I do. I wish I could wake my mama up and tell her how right she was, but I can't do that. Every day when I get a chance, I try to pour into my kids and let my kids know how the devil attacks, how the world is not going to love you if you don't love yourself. I try every day to instill that in them. Are they listening? I couldn't even tell you. They say they are. But all I can do is what God told me to do. And he led me to this point. I don't want to make this video. I don't want to tell nobody how bad I messed up. How I looked around one day and all my kids was grown and they're living better than I did when I was younger. And I'm glad of that because that's what I wanted. But I'm living worse now than I did when they were babies. And it's not supposed to be like that. You see this picture back here? It says, I am not my hair. I am not your expectations. I am not my skin. I am the soul that lives within. India Arie. I am not your expectations. I don't have to be what you expected. I don't have to look like you want me to look. I don't have to have hair down to my ankles for you to want to be with me. My lashes shouldn't be way out to here for you to want to look at me. My beauty doesn't lie on my surface. It lies within inside of me. God knows my heart. It's my heart. People always tell me that I got a good heart, that they're glad that the stuff I went through didn't change it. It almost did, though. I started to get hard. I got so hurt at one time, I told the Lord, I said, I'm not going to do this no more. I said, if you don't come down here and fix these kids, you can come and get me because I don't want to be down here with them no more because they tripping. I said, and if you don't do something about my mama, I'm going to stop talking to her. My dad acknowledges me when he feels like it. Stop talking to him too. I told God all of that. Sick of it. My life was just a hot mess. It was like a bag of garbage with smoke coming out. And one day I got tired of being sick and tired. You know what I did? I turned my life over to God. And I said, fix it. And like that songwriter, gospel songwriter said, Lord, if you don't do it, it cannot be done. So fix it. Do it for me. I'm not asking you to fix my life for my kids. I'm not asking you to fix my life so I can have a man. I'm not asking you to fix my life so that the pains in my body can stop. I'm asking you to do it for me. I want my life to be changed for me. I don't want to impress nobody. I'm not trying to be better than anybody else. I just want you to fix my life to do it for me. And I started reading my word and I started studying my word. And it was so much of myself I found in that Bible. So many people that went through the same stuff I went through, and God healed them because they asked for his healing. And even though he walked on this earth with him, that woman that bled all those years, had the issue of blood, and she touched the hem of his garment and God healed her. Some of us are bleeding on the inside. We have terminal bleeding. And nobody can feel it or see it but us. I'm a woman myself. Aren't you tired of bleeding on the inside? Ain't you tired of people hurting you for no reason? Ain't you tired of hurting yourself? People do to us what we allow. And let me tell you what I heard from a man that's dead and gone. We don't create our future. We create our habits, and our habits determine our future. If I change my habits, I can change my life. If I change my mind, then I can change my habits, then I can change my life. But if I want to stay stuck in this chair like it's got glue on my butt, God is not going to come and snatch me up out of this chair. He's not. God doesn't force himself on anybody. But God is a keeper. He's a burden bearer. He is the wheel in the middle of the wheel. When my back was up against the wall and the rubber met the road, God was right there. When I fell on the street and had that heart attack, God was there. When I had that heart attack in front of my house, God was there. When I lost my mom, God was there. When I lost my dad, God was there. He was there all the time because I got over it. I cry from time to time about certain things. But I've learned that there's a time and a place. It's in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. There's a time and a season for everything. It don't be winter every day of the week, every day of the year. It's not summer every day of the year. It's not fall every day of the year. It's not spring every day of the year. He's showing us with just the weather itself, the seasons, that they don't last. And if you're in a dark place, this season won't last. But if you don't get on your knees and pray and fast and trust him, your season going to last as long as you allow it. And what you allow, you will never change. And don't get me wrong, if you jump up today and decide I had enough of my life, I'm finna change it, expect opposition from your kids. Expect it. They ain't gonna like that. Well, but yesterday you said I could, but it's my prerogative. I done changed my mind now. You can't do that no more. Now go in your room and sit down. It might be 40 degrees and they used to you letting them go outside and play with their jackets on and run around and all that stuff. And then you woke up the next day and you decided that they ain't going out there. It's too cold. They're going to get sick. And if they get sick, I gotta take off from my job and then I got to take care of them. Clean your house. Wash your clothes. Make the kids help you. Take out the garbage. If you got a dog, get a dog a bath. Take the dog outside. Buy a long chain. Put them out there on a pole or something and tell them, look, until you get this together, this is where you're going to stay. You're not going anywhere else. You're going to stay right here in this yard. Learn that this is where you use the bathroom at and not my house. And then you make the kids take care of the dog because they're the ones that wanted them. Don't do this. Please don't do like I did. The Bible says work while you are young, because when you get old, you can't work. Do everything for God now while you're young so he can use you. I love you and I want the best for you. Take care.